Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Welcome to this new webinar, Autumn 20 edition. Today, we have a great topic to discuss about, which is the fleet management. At WeYield, we organize this type of webinars in order to exchange, learn from other expertise, also have some best practice sharing, which is good in this time. But also we would like to give you some things that you could put in place, you could put in practice on your day-to-day operation. For the one who do not know me, I'm Emmanuel Scuto, the CEO and founder of WeYield. We are a software editor company as well as consulting dedicated to car rental. We address our help to the car rental franchisee, car rental operators, either independent or franchisee from an international network. We usually find some, for our clients, our prospect, frustration between the level of information they have and the level of information they would like to have in order to increase their margin and improve their performance. So we are here to help in order to make it happen. Technically, you will be able to exchange with the speaker using the chat button on the bottom right of your screen. Feel free to interact. And you have the question button, which is on the top right of your screen, when you will be able to ask questions to Nathalie, our speaker. So I am pleased to welcome Nathalie Aubin, which is the founder and CEO of L'Amiral Fleet Solutions. And she has a very long expertise in fleet management, and she will be our guest speaker for the day to talk about a very difficult topic in this crisis. To make sure that this subject and this topic, this moment will be a lot of exchange, I would like to propose you to put your telephone on the flight mode and to switch off your Slack, WhatsApp, email and stuff. It's important for you to avoid any distractions and potentially maybe take some notes. We are not used to this. There will not be too many slides today, so feel free to change a little bit the way we usually conduct a webinar. I give back the hand to Nathalie.
Hello, welcome. Welcome everybody. Thank you, Emmanuel, for this presentation. So welcome on board for this webinar dedicated to fleet management in uncertainty. Just a few seconds to present myself. As Emmanuel says, I have 35 years experience in fleet management. I have to say that it's also 35 years experience in the car rental industry, which means that it's probably fleet management in the most difficult place to be. I mean, this business, as you know, is not a business which is, unless you have a business which is flat, where your customers are booking their rents weeks or months in advance. You know how this activity is moving a lot, and you can imagine fleet management, or you have experience yourself, how fleet management is something complex to manage in this industry. My experience was in different countries at the group of Europe Car Mobility Group as well during 15 years. And in the last 7 years, I was member of the management committee of Europe Car France in charge of fleet. And I would say that this experience is something which gives me a vision today, which is both operational and strategic, and and deep inside in the business on the full perimeter of fleet. Last year, I decided to go my own way. Let's say my first my interest, or what I was looking for, was really to share this experience with companies having or large fleet to manage, or companies in the mobility ecosystem, and all their partners, car manufacturers, dealers, dealership, and in fact, all the actors of the ecosystem having to deal with this problematic of fleet management. So that's it for my presentation.
Nathalie, I just have another logistic issue question.
Yes,
can you please just check that this subject is resonating for you on your day-to-day by just putting on the chat, yes, it makes sense, or it's really intense nowadays. It's also to check if the chat button works correctly on your side, if the sound and the video is okay. Can you please say, yes, it's resonating a lot for me? Okay, yes, it is for Christine in Iceland. Thank you.
Chat.
Laura from Spain. Okay, yes, a big yes. That's good.
Yes.
Thank you, Laura. Okay.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you. Yes, do not hesitate to use the chat if there is something which is not clear during my presentation. I will also interact with you and asking some questions during this presentation. So I present myself now. The subject is about fleet and uncertainty. I would say to start that uncertainty due to the crisis we are facing today is not something new in our business. So there are different level of uncertainty. We had in the past already the experience of the different situations, such as Fukushima, such as terrorist attack, where we had to face or a sudden decrease of the demand, or to recover rapidly. I would say the biggest one, probably we can compare with the situation we have today, was the crisis of 2008, 2009. For those who remember, it started in the US with a big issue first in the US. I remember General Motors in Chapter 11. And then it comes to Europe, it comes to the rest of the world, and each country has to adapt because we were facing at this moment, and this is what is comparable with what we have today, is that we were facing at the same time a decrease of the demand in the car rental industry and a strong effect on the automotive market and on the economy in general. And this is exactly where we are today with the COVID, which is a worldwide crisis, which affects the demand in our business of the car rental industry, which affects and will continue to affect the car manufacturers and a lot of other industries and the economy. But crisis, so as I said, we have crisis. Today we are in a crisis. Tomorrow there will be other crises, and there will be a day, we will get out of it. We will get out of it. So now, first we manage what we have to manage today, but we have also to prepare the future, because there will be a future. Well, that was my message. I will share with on this a first experience I had. It was in 2012, but okay, the year is not important, but it was 2012, just to situate, after the crisis of the subprime. We had this subject where the demand was not falling in France at that time. It was growing, but the automotive market was very severely affected by the crisis. And at that moment, because the market, the national market, dropped down suddenly by 3,000 million, by 3,000. Oh, je vais y arriver. 300,000 cars on the market. There was an immediate effect in the car rental industry, which was representing more than 12% of this market share. with a drop of 45,000 for the industry. So what happens are all the suppliers has reviewed their strategy toward the rack, and they reduce their sales to us. So that was the first issue we had to face, growing demand, but an offer which was decreasing from all our suppliers. And at the same time, the first one, representing more than 40% of our fleet, was decreasing by 70% its volume to us. So our big issue was how to grow, how to keep the conditions at the right level, missing thousands of cars to serve off our activity. So what did we do? We do all the things you are used to do when you are a fleet manager. You postpone your sales, your buyback sales. You try to anticipate everything you can. You extend the holding period, but as you know, there is a limit to this exercise because you cannot keep the cars for 3 years in short-term industry. So at the end, we had to think differently. We had to think a different way of sourcing our cars, and we put in place 3 things. First one, we talked with our colleagues from other countries to see how we could get sub-rental from them. We talk with partner out of our market to find some sourcing. We purchase not only new cars, but also recent second-hand cars. And we decided not to purchase only in buyback, but to introduce some risk units in our fleet. And we learned how to manage a remarketing activity. We learned how to negotiate second-hand cars. We learn how to buy cars outside of our country. This has helped to save us, to escape from this situation on short term. But this has also helped us to enhance our skill for the future. And what I have to say is that the result of this has helped this year, 2012, but continues to help the years after, because we have diversified our sourcing. We have reduced by ICOS, by the way, by 15%. And we have more power in our negotiation because we are able to purchase both new old car and both buyback and race cars. So this is an experience. What is important is not the solution in itself. My message to you is when we are in this situation, it's important not to think only short term, to think what we could think about for alternative for the future, and diversify our sourcing is a key also to gain in agility. So now if we move to the subject of capacity, finally, if you can just move to the slide, Emmanuel, maybe. Thank you. What do we need to plan the capacity? What do we need to consider? We need to consider the targeted rental days, for sure, the seasonality, utilization rate, and this will help the fleet manager to decide what volume to purchase according to the stock he has and how to plan the in and out. And we will come into more details on this. The mix categories, which is very much affected by the business mix, and in the situation where we are, this is a key point because the B2B will not react the same way than the leisure, and we can see it on the leisure today. It is very difficult. Probably it is very difficult this year for both. Next year, maybe leisure will. Thank you. Maybe leisure will grow, but what will be the situation with business? You need to be very clear on that, So to what could be the effect for next year to build your mix per category. The mix per category for the fleet negotiator would help to know what are the models to buy. Then we will look at fleet costs, we will look at revenue per vehicle, we will look at the margin, and this is to negotiate the total cost of ownership. Okay? So if we look at how to plan the capacity, so rental days, utilization, and mix, for sure, as I said, we will look at the demand and how this demand is split between B2B and leisure, and how the seasonality will act. In this situation where things have changed a lot this year compared to last year, if we want to project ourselves in 2021, we need to be very precise on this, because we cannot plan anymore based on the history. We have to take care of the history, where we were. But where are our customers now? Will B2B continue to rent cars the same way they were renting cars in 2019? Not sure. Will the leisure will start? Will we have new sanitary constraints next year, as we had this year? Will the traffic on the airport restart, on the railway restart? Will the business be more in the city or in the airport? All these things will affect the demand, both on volume, but also on the mix and in seasonality, for sure. So at the end, once we will have defined what is the level of rental day, what is the size of the volume, how it works during the year, month on month, and how it is within each car group, we will match this with the offers we have from the OEM. And here, again, because we are in a situation of crisis, we might have some changes coming from this market. What will be the volume our suppliers or your suppliers will offer to you next year? Do you have an idea on this? What are the models which will be present in their offers? Maybe they will have some issues with the capacity of production. Because of the pandemic, there are some situations where the supply chain is not working completely as it should. Maybe there will be some priorities on the model to produce first when it will restart and volume will grow again. Maybe some others will be put aside. So these are some kind of influence we can have on the market. And then the conditions, what will be the conditions they will offer to you, considering the situation they are facing this year on their economy, on their results. What will be the position to the car rental industry? Car rental industry is not a customer which is paying a lot the cars. Will they re-affect the same volume to this industry? Will they reduce their volume to the industry? All these questions are coming from 21 and will continue to come, I think, in 22 and 23. Is that something you share with me? This appreciation of what can be tomorrow, what can be 2001 negotiation?
For the audience, okay. Is it effectively, you feel already an issue, starting negotiations with your dealers, or eventually car manufacturers for the one who are in direct contact? Any comment, or you are not necessarily aware because it's more your fleet manager who is in charge? That could be interesting to know. Are you aware of any difficulties at your level, either sales manager, revenue manager, pricing manager?
Is it share between fleet and revenue and capacity management?
Ulf from Sweden. He's typing. I'm sure he is, because he's in charge also on the fleet distribution and allocation. So I'm sure he is. And for the others, Andrea in Italy or Laura in Spain.
It is really important to share this topic within the team, because you can build, you can have a very good forecast. We can build very good hypothesis on the mix between B2B, leisure, what would be the best mix to have. But at the end, it's also important to take care about the market and where are the risks and where are the opportunities. And more you share in advance, better it is to build your forecast for 21. Okay, I continue. So part of the things you are looking at are also the utilization. And once you have defined your rental days, your mix, and so on, then you will look at utilization and what is the revenue per unit you can have, because category by category, you can have the categories where you have a very strong, very huge utilization rate. And yes, we have to push utilization rate to get better margin, but sometimes, okay, you push, but for a very low margin. On the contrary, where we have categories we protect, and we have to protect because we have low utilization, but very high revenue per unit. So the figures is just here to illustrate a different kind of situation we have. Wrong would be to have a very low utilization rate and a very low revenue for sure. This is what we will avoid. So the forecast is based like this, but it's still forecast. If we move to fleet costs, the same will appear. We will have, for the fleet manager, we'll have to look at what is utilization cost, what is holding cost. So the difference, this is the total is what we call the TCO, total cost of ownership. And the difference between both is that the holding cost is a result from the fact you purchase a vehicle. So it's the difference between the purchase price, the resale price. So really the moment you have during your holding period, and plus the taxes. This is more or less the holding cost. Utilization cost is what is coming from the car running on the road. So where you have the maintenance, the repairs, and so on. Okay, the mileage. So this is really depending on your mix. This is depending on the customer profile, and this is depending also on the utilization rate. And the levers for the fleet manager is really on this topic. And this is something we have to take care of for the negotiation. Okay, we can have big difference from one category to another, but we can have also big differences from one customer profile to another. There are profiles where we have huge sinistrality, where we have high mileage. Some others, the duration of the rent has also an influence on the utilization rate. So all what we expect in our forecast mix of customers will have an impact on the fleet cost at the end. The things we are also looking at are the key figures to pilot our activity. So there is one of these key figures I talk about, which is the last one. I think I talk about the three, by the way. These are probably key figures you use to manage and to control your activity. I will ask you what it is, what we are talking about. So it's three acronyms, three letters: G, R, T, What is it for you? And I will have another question after. So the answer is gross profit per unit, which is a result of a revenue per unit and TCO. So my meaning was, or my meaning is, that you are probably used to play with these figures in a normal situation, where, as I said, you will try to be as precise as possible on your forecast, split, B2B, leisure, the seasonality, the utilization rate, and the financial indicators, because at the end, we are all working from gross profit. And this is the review, the result of the volume of activity, but attached to the car means including utilization and total cost of ownership. And this is always the balance we have to find to optimize as much as we can the gross profit per unit. But this is normal life. Now we are in uncertainty. And do you think this is enough to pilot your activity that way?
If I may, just a quick
Yes.
interruption, Nathalie. For the one who are using the apps, do you know that you have access not to the TCO part, but at least on the RPU, the revenue per unit in the reporting? Was it something that you pay attention on? You know, that is something on which you can create a bridge between the fleet operations and revenue. And we have in the reporting section the ability to look at per car group, per car type, per ACRIS code for the one who are using ACRIS code, exactly the revenue generated per area for the year, for last year, compare it, how it is evolved. And it's a very good information to share among the company, because then everybody has the same level of information at the same time because it's updated every day. So having this angle of fleet optimization, it's a very good tool and options to be able to pay attention on this.
So what do you think about what we have seen before, which probably are things you are used to manage your activity? What do you think compared to the situation we are facing, the time where we are to prepare 2001? Do you think, first of all, is it the way you are preparing 2001? First question. Second question, do you think it is enough?
Do you plan, how do you see the uncertainty of 2021 now in terms of fleet management, guys? For the audience, the morning question, which is appropriately very strategic. Maybe you don't know it, but at least you have some feedback from your fleet manager.
How do you prepare 21 today?
Dionysus from Greece is typing now. Good. It will start soon. Christine from Iceland. I think it's a longer answer, so need to give them some a bit of time.
No. By decreasing the fleet.
Okay. More than that has been done already for 2020. This is what you mean, Christina. Okay. Yes. All right. Genius. And for the other, Dionysus, you are typing from Greece. What is the feeling you have right now? Laura from Spain. Okay, so there's no the forecast that it will be a driven.
So forecast done with probably the figures we have seen before. So we plan rental days, we plan a mix, we plan.
So for Dionysus in Greece, he plans to stay even. So it means that they have reduced a lot, so they don't plan in fleeting.
Okay.
Marco in Hungary, Austria plan to increase, and Ulf, still, we would suspect a little less than 2019. So it means that you plan to re-increase Ulf in Sweden for 2021. Is it right?
And now, are you confident with this?
Marco is typing from Hungary, Austria. Okay, very much confident. Okay.
Good.
Yes. Okay, that's good. So
thank you for your feedback. Thank you.
Right. Excellent.
So this question is to say, in fact, in uncertainty.
Marco said it cannot go worse than 2020. That's for sure.
Probably.
And Laura from Spain said that 21 will be a bit better than 2020. Yeah. So we will. Okay, good. Thank you, Laura.
It is also my opinion. Okay. We can hope so. The point is that in uncertainty in the situation we are facing, yes, for sure, we hope 21 will not be worse than 20. But for sure there will be an after, but for sure it will be different as well. I cannot imagine that in 21 we will recover exactly the same business as what we had in 19, because the mixed leisure business will be probably different, because we have changed the way we move, and there are things which will continue like this, and because of the economy, which might change also the way we rent cars and we move. So in uncertainty, what I would like to say, what we need absolutely to do when we are in charge of fleet is to secure the business, because, as you said, we don't know what will be the demand from next year, and we can plan whatever we want. At the end, depending on what will happen on the market, we will have to readjust, and the first things we will readjust is fleet. But at the same time, if you do nothing from the fleet side, you just continue to play things as you did in the past, that will not be enough, because you have also to make sure you secure a minimum of your fleet. You have to make sure you are able to catch additional demand if it comes during the year, and I hope it will come. And you need to manage the stop and go, which is also another difficulty. So for me, what is very, very important in this situation is first to identify what is really the minimum you need for next year. So you said we have a vision where we said, okay, finally, we think it cannot be worse than 220, so we will start on the same level. This is also my opinion. I think, and this is what we can see on this graph. On this graph, we see what this. The figures are not important. More important is the concept. Here, I took the figures, let's say, of a fleet of 1,000 units. 1,000 units. Let's say that in 19, 80% was secured. Then you have 10%, which was more or less a maximum we could look for, and the gray zone is uncertainty. In 2020, sorry, in 2020, you have to face a drop in your activity. You had to decrease your fleet to a certain level. So here I put 50% decrease, and you are still keeping fleet, and you still look for potential to develop after when we go out from the, I don't know how you say the confinement, by the way. When we have to
we say lockdown.
After the lockdown, you have to recover a little bit your activity. So let's say this is what I call the mini and the maxi. If you look 21, I consider that, let's consider 20, it cannot be worse than 20. So this is our minimum. But still, you will look to improve a little bit than that during the year. And there could be some opportunities to go eventually at a level even higher. This is what I call the gray zone. So for me, in uncertainty, or in my experience, what I was doing in this kind of situation was exactly to secure the minimum with engagement with the suppliers to make sure I get the cars. The maximum is made of volumes with planning optimization, with a huge focus on flexibility. So when I talk about flexibility, I talk about, for example, the flexibility on holding period. I don't know if some of you have in their contract fixed holding period, but this is absolutely to avoid to cover this part of the fleet. I encourage you to have larger, if you need, for example, 6-7 months holding period, to have the ability to return a car after 3 and to return a car until 12. Even if the conditions are not the same, it's much better to pay a little bit more to extend, a little bit more to reduce, than having no choice, or to keep the car 3-4 months longer when you don't need, or not to be able to catch an opportunity because you are at the maximum holding period. So take care of this in your contract. This is very important. And this is important also to build and to optimize your fleet planning in order to adapt each time you postpone deliveries, you anticipate sales. This will allow you to adapt month on month. And the potential, the gray zone, is really a volume you shouldn't have in your contract, but something you should continue to look at on your market to be able, at the moment you will need to activate them, to be able to negotiate spot deal. Okay? Is this clear on this slide?
This point is extremely important, Nathalie. I would like to emphasize, yesterday I've been discussing with a client, in fact, and by default, I'm going to question this, because for sure when you will say, okay, do you have some issues having some contractual condition? Everybody say, no, for sure, everything is okay in our side. Okay, thank you. But however, when we look into the detail, we may find some difficulties. Yesterday I was discussing with a client. He had an extremely good negotiation with a dealer, and but then the type of rental made that they were reaching the mileage, maximum mileage, too early, without any possibility to defleet before the end of the contract. And it's exactly what Nathalie is emphasizing. So the cars were standing by. They have to pay for the variables of the car, the parking, insurance, and all these things, without being able to put this car back on the road at all before the end of the contract with the appropriate defleeting. So make sure that within the contract it's possible to manage. Okay, we have a lot of feedback now. Do you see it, Nathalie? Very clear for Ulf in Sweden. And Andrea, the problem is management the peak of the season. Okay. All right, extremely good. Andrea is in an island in Mediterranean from Sicily, so that's a good comment. What would you suggest when you have such a big difference between the low season and the high season, with a lot of infleeting during, let's say, spring overall?
I would say that I was used to have the high seasonality like this, because in the country where I was working, we had to double the fleet between the low season and the high season. And for sure in the islands, this is even worse. What I would say, very important, is to spread as much as you can your deliveries, because anyhow, if the peak is of 2-3 months, let's say, or really, let's say the shortest one, the 2 months, anyhow, you will have the fleet or after, or before or after. So it's much better to go and spread your delivery and spread your defleeting than having everything at the same time. So that would be my first recommendation. Second recommendation, not to buy everything with the same supplier. I know it's sometimes not easy, but this is really also another key factor of success, because if there is a problem with one of these suppliers, you have nothing. If you concentrate all your volumes with the supplier. I would secure the logistic as well, because logistic, when you're on an island or not, when you have to face the seasonality, this is a huge issue. And by the way, this will help me to.
So it means that it's really practical element that you just mentioned. So you suggest that eventually to have a little bit less good condition, like contractual condition, but with the variety of suppliers, not to put the eggs in the same basket, like in Renault, Fiat, or Peugeot at the same time. Make sure that you have 7, 10, even though it's more complex, sometimes less profitable, it gives you much more flexibility. You see what you meant?
Yeah, what more you have suppliers, more you have to deal with several of them. So it looks like it's more complex. But I can tell you, I had to face this kind of situation When you have only one supply at a moment, or one supplier, one model, in fact, more you concentrate the solution on one supplier, one model, one period of delivery, more risk you have in the non-execution of the plan. That's my point. So
excellent. Thank you very much.
Diversify holding period, diversify suppliers, diversify, spread your deliveries, spread your outs. This is very important. Okay, but don't forget, you also need to secure a part of your volume. The uncertainty is not on 100% of your fleet. Uncertainty is on these elements, on the margin between what will be your minimum and what will be your maximum and potential. Don't forget this. This is a large part of your business. If it represents 50%, you have to secure this 50% very soon. And why? And this helps me to move to the second one, which is about timing. Be on time is essential for the success of your plans. You can do all the forecasts you want. At the end, okay, it's still a forecast. But if you want this forecast, and if you want this forecast to happen, if you want, and also if you want that your suppliers is him as well. So be on time. It seems, you know this, you know that we are in a period of time where we negotiate, we contract with our car manufacturer. You know that we have delivery delay due to the time to produce the cars. When we are on an island, it's even worse. It's even more important due to the logistic issue, and logistic has to be prepared too. So what I would say is all these things you know by heart, but I can tell you that being on time is very often an issue in our business. And share share within the team what is the forecast, where we want to go, what is the minimum, what is the maximum, where are the opportunity, where are the risks, is really essential to manage fleet, and it's essential to get the commitment from the suppliers. Okay?
And then, if you cannot do it, and for sure there is a lot of logistic issue, as Nathalie said that, if we can go backwards in the summer 20, that there was a lot of unexpected last-minute demand, because you were lacking some fleet, that's the great moment to increase the price. Okay, because yes, in many islands, many areas around Mediterranean, there was a lot of last-minute demand, and that's the time to cut segmentation, to cut the low contribution, to improve the business direct, so it will trigger an increase in the margin. Okay, for sure, the time of actions on the fleet side is much longer, it's much slower, it's much more difficult, but you have a quick access, which is change price, switch segmentation, switch off some business in order to face this last-minute switch. It is really difficult to plan.
Yeah, that's true. And again, this is not because you commit on your minimum level of fleet, the one you want to secure. When we are in November, December, at the time you need to prepare the deliveries, the purchasing for next year, that you cannot work on your fleet plan optimization in between. If you have built the flexibility in your contract that you need, if you have played the diversity, here you can play the optimization during the time. You will have all the time to continue to play this optimization and to go to eventually increase figures in your purchases, and even better to negotiate a spot deal according to opportunities on the market, not only from the car rental, but from the OEM, as well, from your supplier, I mean.
Do you, for the audience, Nathalie, do you think sometime to face a switch in the demand, it's important and eventually better to really deflate like after 2 months, even though it's really expensive, or to extend much longer than what was planned, even though you may have some penalties. What do you think for the audience about this expensive possible contractual condition?
In fact, as I said, it's always better to have the flexibility in the contract. If you don't have, you can renegotiate. Renegotiation is still possible, even if we have a signed contract. And I would encourage you to discuss with your suppliers, the one who is selling the cars to you, the one who is repurchasing the cars to you, because they are fleet is made of in and outs. So sometimes it's better to postpone deliveries instead of defleeting massively. Sometimes you need both, but sometimes there are alternatives you can play with. But it will cost less if you manage it in a win-win situation with your car manufacturer, with your supplier, because you also need to think that he has sold cars to you, but when he is repurchasing in buyback, he is also putting these cars on the second-hand market. And according to how the new market is and the number he has to do and the production plan he has and the distribution plan he has, and according to the second market, how it works, does he have enough volume to put on the market in 6 months' time? Does he need to have more cars to put on the market in each month times? All these things, if you put everything on your problem, his problem, and if you think together, I'm sure you will find the best solution for you, for him, and for your cost at the end. And that's the reason why I was saying, is it enough? For me, what is the most important in uncertainty, and that's the reason why I insist a lot on this, is a trust. When we are in an uncertainty period, finally, the most difficult is not to have visibility and not to have trust in the future, in fact. And the first thing you need to restore, and I hope this is not something you have you missed in 2020, because when we need to react rapidly to save our company, to save our employees, to save our future, we take drastic action, drastic decision to stop deliveries, to return massively cars by anticipation. In fact, we are in a hurry, so we have to take strong decisions. But these strong decisions, they also affect the people we are working with, our partners, our suppliers. So take care of them. This is really important because they are your future. They are part of your future. In this industry, we are very dependent from the automotive market. If tomorrow your supplier decides not to sell anymore to this segment, which is very expensive for him, by the way, or if he decides to develop by himself a solution of mobility and to prefer to keep these cars from this activity he's developing, and there are plenty of car manufacturers developing solutions like this, what will happen to you? You must be ready to that. So you have to take care about this win-win, what's happening, what he expects from you to prepare next year. So, and be prepared to what is changing on the market. I would say this is really important. So, for example, your supplier needs to trust you as well. He needs to make sure that you will next year. Okay, there is uncertainty. Okay, you need flexibility. But if it is decided, negotiated in advance, it's much better than when we have to negotiate in the middle of the crisis. So 20 was 20, but 20, you have learned things. They have learned things. It's important now to put them in place in the contract, to organize a little bit the things. What will happen if? What will happen if? Are you ready to? You need to trust your supplier. You need to make sure that he will be able to deliver the volume, that he has no issue with the production, no issue with the model mix you expect from him, that he will be able to postpone and help yourself if you need to defleet, if you cannot take all the cars, if you need to anticipate sales. But the supplier is the same. He needs to trust you. Will you be fair with your commitments? Will you take the car he will produce for you? Will you pay the car? Have you had where are you with the financing, and so on? So trust for me is key. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, for the audience. Are you okay, Christine? Yes. Laura from Spain, Christine from Iceland say yes. Totally agree. Thank you, Nathalie, for Laura, Spain. Andrea from Sicily, yes. Okay. Yeah, it's really resonating with the audience. Huh? Mm-hmm. Yes, it's not easy. That's good. That's the reason why also when Christian presented yesterday the demand forecast we have in the apps, it's a way also, not in detail, but to share also on a regular basis with your suppliers and dealers how you see the evolution of the business, what kind of visibility you give to them in terms of demand increase and forecast. Well, so, owned by the supplier for Ulf in Sweden. Okay. Okay, we have 5 minutes.
5 minutes, so I accelerate a little bit just to say, the first, you see there is the approach based on the history, the forecast, and all the figures you can forecast. Second is trust and exchange and share between you in the team and with your partners and specifically your suppliers. This is very important, but that's not enough. As I said, you have to continue to explore alternatives, even if you think that the activity will be not necessarily better than when it was this year, or a little bit better than it was this year. You have to think long term, not only short term. So prepare 2001, secure what you have to secure, but continue to look at alternatives. Alternatives in sourcing, diversity versus dependency is really important. I talked about it already. Planning, regular in fleet, defleet will help you to put flexibility in your plan. It's much better to have cars coming every month, every week, every day if you can. It's even much better than having renewals 1, 2, 3 times in the year. You reduce the risk at the entry, at the when it goes out. Model of acquisition is something you can also explore, and I could add financing as well, because sometimes you have financing schemes which are not helping you to be agile, I would say. And model of acquisition can be buyback, can be risk, can be new cars, can be second-hand recent cars. It's another way to help your supplier, for example, to reinstall in your fleet some cars you have sold in buyback, which are still not sold and in its stock. And I would say, explore with the OEM all the win-win alternatives you can have. Share with him try to understand what are their difficulties, because maybe you will find a way to help your suppliers in a way that helps you, costing zero, or even sometimes he will give you money for that because you are supporting his business. So my vision of the future, just to conclude, I would say, I think that the rental car activity for 2021, probably the demand will not be stabilized. We might have a smooth recovery from a second semester, and this is really depending on the COVID control, the vaccine, and the economy for sure. And 2021 will probably remain below 2019. From the automotive, because again, we look at what's happening on the car rental industry, but what is happening on the automotive, because we are very dependent of this market. The global capacity, I think, should be aligned with fleet needs you will have. It will be below 19, but align with your needs. I would say that it's important to have a look at the fleet mix, because I think it's not granted on specific model due to potential risk on production capacity, and you have to focus also on the logistic. So the tips I said, secure the mean, secure the max with flexibility, keep room for potential, and be on time, give visibility, share, and secure mean mix. 2022 will probably, but okay, we will see, probably progressively grow, especially I think on leisure. I want to travel, and I think I'm not alone. And will be probably again be below 19, or maybe we will recover a little bit. On the automotive market, possibly the volume will go, but what you have to look at is that all the previous subject we have in 19 will even come on the table, will come back on the table even stronger. The pressure from the CAFE norms, all the investment they had to do on the electric cars, the second-hand market, which is going well today because the new car market is suffering on production side. There are cycles, so it means that probably in 2 years' time it will be the contrary. They will be very result-driven. So you have really on 2002 to look at what will happen on this market, and because it could change the strategy to hack. So to conclude on this, really, I would suggest you to have a look at what you are prepared for to make the good choice, taking into consideration that it's not only the car rental market you should have a look at, but you also need to have a look at the automotive market and the environment, which is about COVID control, for sure, economy, support from government, taxes, new taxes, environmental rules. The climate change will come back also on the table. All this topic in 22 we will have to manage. So thank you. I hope this was clear. As all you collect some tips from this experience I try to share with you. Again, I don't have the magic solution, but each market is different, but there are things you can build on in your contracts, in your negotiation, in your relationship, in the way you optimize your fleet plan. Thank you. And if you have questions, I will be pleased to answer.
Thank you very much, Nathalie, for the sharing of good practices and experience. The webinars continue, and tomorrow I will conclude the week in English at the same time. So feel free to join, and you have a big warm thank. Can we find the slides? The video will be released on our YouTube channel. WeYield, if you check WeYield on YouTube, you will have all the webinars in the webinar section, Ulf. Thank you very much, and wish you an excellent day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.